Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Now, if you've been in Opal for a while, you would have heard this so many times, and it's the myth that Opal has been viewed in history as being quite unlucky. Now, I hear this all the time, especially from people in their kind of 50s, 60s, 70s, but I never really thought much of it. That is until recently when I've had a lot of people approach me with the whole superstitions around Opal being unlucky again, and I've never looked into the history of it, so I decided to dive in a little bit, and as per usual, I started off here with GIA, my go-to source for a lot of research surrounding this kind of thing, and you can see on screen they had a little bit of a blurb. It's just a very short thing, it's not the full article that I was hoping to find, so I decided to do a little bit more digging after this. Now, they do mention a few things that were pretty interesting, such as opals being around a lot longer than I thought. So going right back to ancient Rome, ancient Greece, it turns out opal has been around much longer than the 1800s. It's just that it wasn't until the late 1800s where Australia really took over and we had the world's best opal. Before that, there were a bunch of different places that I still need to get some opal from, particularly places like Slovakia where I haven't got any, but apparently it is out there, and it was out there much earlier than Australia, so I do need to hunt some of that stuff down and add to the collection. But back in those times, everything sounded very positive. It was all about good luck and power and all sorts of rainbow trapped in rocks. Really cool stuff. The first time it ever comes out as being a bit of a negative was with this book. So I can bring it up. There's only a quick mention of it in the GIA, but I actually found the book. You can get access to it yourself through Project Gutenberg. And I'm not sure how to say it, but it's Anne of Geierstein or The Maiden of the Mist Volume 1 by Walter Scott. So this is a real old book. You can get access to it, you can read it, you can check it out on a Kindle, if anyone uses Kindle anymore these days. I checked out the PDF version of it, and I was going to actually read the whole book, but there is no way. It's a little bit before my time, and the English is, it's an interesting thing, but just not for me. So the novel was published in 1829, and the language used is very 1829. So I don't know, if you're into that kind of thing, by all means, feel free to check it out. But I only really want to bring up where it is in this book and how it comes across as being a bit of a negative. Now, the bad luck opal comes from a section, I believe, that's way down in the book in pages 205 through to about 208. But essentially what happens is that a few drops of holy water manage to get onto the opal, and the opal pretty much shoots out colour and then goes colourless. They say colourless as a common pebble, and this results in the person that was wearing it dying eventually. So the kind of thing that happens when an Ethiopian hydrophane opal ends up being submerged in water, where it does lose a bit of its colour. So most likely it's some sort of hydrophane opal back then that they saw had this kind of property, and that's the reason why all of this negativity started surrounding opals way back then. Pretty unlucky, because if it was all Aussie opal, that would definitely not have happened, and it would completely ruin their story, because it seems like a bit of a pivotal point. Apparently this novel had a huge effect on the opal market at the time, and it absolutely tanked. But it did recover a fair bit, and I think it recovered a lot more once the Australian opal came out and people realised that the properties were not the same. It wasn't so fragile. I know back in the day they didn't have the best tools, and yeah, working opal, especially something like Ethiopian opal, is super difficult, very fragile. They would have seen all of these negative properties, but the Aussie opal really doesn't have a lot of those negative properties, so that would have turned it around huge. However, even after the Aussie opal came out, with all these fantastic properties, better colour, better stability, easier to work, there was still a big detractor that seemed to bring in a lot of this superstition and negativity towards opal, and that was, of course, the diamond trade. So a lot of the diamond traders were constantly bringing up negatives about opal because, I mean, clearly they look a lot better anyway. That's a given for all of us opal fans out there. And essentially they were saying that opal is bad luck unless you can balance that bad luck by surrounding it in something like a diamond or a ruby, some other good luck stone. This, of course, is just to boost their market and diminish the opal market. And surprisingly, people let that work for quite a while. I mean, this is the late 1800s, early 1900s. Unfortunately, internet was not a thing there, and real truths of opal just weren't out there, and people were a bit more superstitious back then. I think when everything started really turning around though, because that's the majority of the negativity, I think it really started becoming much more of a positive thanks to Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria in the 1840s, somewhere around there, that was around the time that the discovery of opals in Australia began. She seemed to really like it, and then another royal, Queen Elizabeth, Elizabeth II was given a particular opal by the Australian government in 1954. By that time, everyone was kind of cottoning on to Australian opal really punching above its weight. Super underrated. If I had invested then, I'd be a billionaire now. And that gift was the centerpiece opal in the necklace referred to today as the Queen's Opal. And it is a chunky boy. It's an Andamuka stone and it weighs in at about 200 carats, a little bit over. It really is a solid and stunning piece. From that point in time, I think a lot of the rumours surrounding opal faded out pretty fast. So hopefully that clears up a lot of that myth around opal and bad luck, and now you can understand where it kind of came from. I'd always heard about it and never really looked into it, so I decided to have a quick little squiz and do a bit of research. And it is super interesting. I do want to dive into the ancient history of opal a little bit more. I tried to find some pictures and stuff of old Roman times and old Greek times, but couldn't find anything. It's almost like they didn't have mobile phones or anything to capture it all, so I'm going to have to dig a little bit harder to find that info, but maybe in the future I'll bring all of that up again. So hopefully you guys found it as interesting as I did. If so, I'm happy to do other deep dives into the history of opal. I'd love to interview some people. I'm especially interested in the Aboriginal link to opal as well, so if I could get some interviews, I'll have to ask around at the uni, see if the Indigenous Centre has anything to say. I'd love to hear a bunch of their views on all of the opal side of things. There'd have to be some good Dreamtime stories. Good luck, have fun. Hopefully you've carved up a bunch of gems. I'm going to try to do the same right now. See ya.